Okay, continuing on, we're going to repeat our sponsors. We may wind up with a little gap in audio for the section that we did not do. Maybe we'll catch up on it. But Daf Yomi sponsored by this week by Mrs. Sylvie Wald, Jeffrey and Chava Bela Wald, Le'ilu Nishmas, Jeff's father, Avram ben Shmuel, and grandfather Menachem Mendel ben Mordechai, whose yortzites are the 1st of Nisan. Daf Yomi for the week is also sponsored by Daisy ben Shmuel, Le'ilu Nishmas, Daisy's grandfather, Maimon ben Yosef, whose yortzeit is on the 1st of Nisan, and Daf Yomi sponsored for the week by Aaron and Evelyn Kaslasi B'schus Refuah Shlema, for Mr. Kaslasi's mother Gracia Bas Mesoda, and for Chana Bas Bruria. We are currently at the top of Kuf Amid Beis. Okay, and we were talking about Mida Tova and the Mida Keneged Mida that Hashem is giving to tzaddikim after they give charity in this world with their hand. So then Hashem's going to then repay charitable contribution in kind with His hand into the tzaddikim. And we say, well, that sounds like an outrageous amount. So we point out, no, that's how it works. Because we see that Midas, the generous hand of Hashem, always is better than the punishment of Hashem. And we said that is proven by the mun, which came through the doors of Shemayim, whereas the flood came through the windows of Shemayim. So, Bemidos Paranos. So now when we get to, we're on the fourth line, Bemidos Paranos, who, remember, when it comes to the Midos Paranos, the bad things, it says, Vayatsu, Vera'u befigre hanashim haposhim bi, and they went out and they saw the corpses of the men who were sitting against me, Ki tolatam lo tamus, the worms never stopped, or never died, V'isham lo tichbeh, and their guilt was not extinguished, and they were a affliction or what was that?
Like under all their flesh.
On all their flesh. Dera'on is also is like an affliction or some negative, right? V'halo adam moshit etzba'or bar'or ba'omazeh miyad nichva. He says, but look, how is it that the Isham is not their guilt, but Isham is their fire. The fire will not be extinguished. Well, how is it that Hashem's punishing these Rishonim with a fire that never extinguishes? In this world, right, a person gets burnt up, then eventually the fire goes out. Right? If they stick their finger in the fire, it gets burnt and then it goes out. Right? You can't, you don't stay burning. But you see that Hashem makes Rishayim have the strength to be able to be alive and live through their terrible punishments, even though that's supernatural punishment. So therefore, therefore it is supernatural. Hashem therefore for sure gives supernatural abilities to tzaddikim to be able to get their merit, to get their reward, which is supernatural in size. Okay. Mishnah said, people who don't have chiluk haba. Rabbi Akiva says, afa kori b'sfarim achitonim, somebody who reads in external svarim. So Tana, we learned b'sifrei tzedukim. We're talking about the tzeduki svarim. Those are their kofrim. That's what we're referring to. Rav Yosef Amar b'sefer ben Sira nami yasor mikra. Rav Yosef says that even the sefer ben Sira you cannot read from ben Sira's sefer. Now, ben Sira's sefer is interesting because ben Sira's sefer is quoted in different parts of Shas. And it's like a book of parables, and they don't seem to be all that bad. And even this Gemara is going to really discuss that most of Ben Sira's Sefer is not that bad. Could be certain elements and segments of Ben Sira's Sefer that were considered questionable, and it gets left out of the Tanakh eventually. But really Ben Sira's Sefer doesn't sound so awful. So we're a little bit surprised that we're saying that which Sefer you shouldn't read? You shouldn't read Ben Sira's Sefer. But remember, at this point, they had firmed up and defined what was in Tanakh, and so there was a concern that people would consider and continue to read other Sfarim that were not in Tanakh and consider it just as important as other Sfarim of Tanakh.
Ben Sira's Sefer, there's something wrong with that Sefer?
So we're going to see what was wrong with his Sefer. That's what they're going to want to know. What's so bad about it? So Rav Yosef, so Amar Le Abaye, my time, Abaye says, what's wrong with? But obviously they had all read it, right? It's an interesting, what's wrong with it? We know it. Right? They all read it. So Lema, now they're going to quote from it to tell you it could be this statement, it could be that statement. But you see, it can't be that they've all lost their chiluk and olam haba because they all seem to have read it, right? So it just seems like it's not one of those farm you should be really focusing on, but it doesn't seem like it's the same category as the tzedukim. Anyway, you know what's written in Ben Sira's Sefer? Maybe it says lo tintosh gildana meudne de lo lezel mashke lechavala, that you shouldn't take the fish that's called the gildana, and you should and take its skin off from the ears, because it has gills up there, right? And rip its skin off, because then if you do that, you're going to waste the skin. You shouldn't go wasting the skin of this fish when you tear it off. So elitzliya se benura. Rather, what you should do is you should roast it in fire. Ve'echol tartan gritzim, and you should eat it together with 2 loaves of bread. Right. So therefore, you won't waste the skin. The skin is edible. Don't waste it. So now, what's the issue? If you read what it just on the surface understanding of what it is, don't waste the fish. That's basically what it is. So beros and naimiksiv, that's also written in the Torah. Lo sashchis es eitzah. You're not allowed to waste, right? If you capture up a city, you're not supposed to destroy all the trees of the city that you capture, because you're not allowed to lay waste. You're not like baltashchis, right? Can't just waste something for unnecessary reasons. So therefore, this is the same thing, right? But that's not share. Share trees you have to destroy, right?
Right.
Unless they're share trees, right? So therefore, you shouldn't destroy trees for no reason. So therefore, also, it makes sense. You shouldn't just destroy the pieces of the fish and throw it away for no reason. Midrasha, and if this issue is the drush, so the drush is orach ara kamashmon. The drush of this pasuk is just telling us good hygiene, or good ways of behaving. Delo leave all shalo kedarka. A person shouldn't have constant relations with his wife, shalo kedarka, relations, because that is going to be motzi zera levatala. It's not going to be able to get anybody pregnant. So therefore, that is not the proper way of behaving. But therefore, the message of that pasuk is certainly not inappropriate. It certainly goes along with Torah messaging. Maybe it says in Ben Sira's Sefer another thing. Bas la'aviha matmonis shav, that a daughter for a father is a false gift. You think having a daughter is so great? It isn't. Because why? You're so nervous that you're going to not be able to sleep at night, because bekat nusa, when she's small, shema tispateh, you're always worried that she's going to get seduced to do znus.
So you're saying it's better to have a son than a daughter?
That's what they're saying, yes. But narusa, when she grows a little older, so then shema tizneh, then maybe she'll be the seeking out znus. But grosh, she gets a little older and she can get married. Shema lo tinasa, you're going to get worried because you got to marry her off, and maybe she won't get married. Nises, if she gets married, shema lo yiyolabanim, maybe she won't have kids. So his kinon, if she gets even older, she gets to be an old lady, shema tasek shafim, maybe she'll get into witchcraft. So you're not worried about the ladies getting into all kinds of problems. You're always worried about your daughters. So ha-rabbanan namiyamru. Okay, so that sounds like that's so off base. The Rabbanan had a saying also. They would say, Ev shalom b'balo zechar v'ol nekevos. It's not possible for the world to exist without males and females. Ashri mishabanav zecharim. Happy is somebody who's got male sons. Oilo lemishabanav nekevos, and woe is to those who have female daughters, because you got to worry about them a little bit more. You're a little bit nervous about what's going to happen with them. Ella mishum dichsiv. The pasuk says, Lo te'el davya bilibach de gavri giborn kital davya. You shouldn't worry, because a worry is going to kill a person. Even strong people get killed by worry, right? Don't worry. Be happy. So ha Shlomo Amra, there you go. So ha Shlomo Amra. Shlomo said the same thing. Dag believe ish yashchena, that worry in the heart of a person is going to destroy him. Rabbi Ami Vravasi Chad Amar Yesichena Midato. What does it mean Yashchena? What you should do with this, you should Yashchena. So one explanation is Yesichena Midato, that what you do is you should turn your heart, you should turn away from it. Ignore it. Don't pay attention to the worry. Change the subject. Focus on something else. V'chad Amar Yesichena Lachirim. Another says that the answer is talk about it with a friend. Right? Go seek therapy. Right?
Yeah. Tell us what's funny. He summarized the whole thing as bittul Torah.
About the worry? Yeah.
No, about the Sefer.
Sefer ben Sira, right? The issue is it's bittul Torah, right?
Says, you're right. Sheish boy divrei chavai, haba aleihem lidei bittul Torah. Yeah.
Because the book itself isn't bad, right? We're not saying that anything but we are trying to find the message in here that's bittul Torah, because so for every message we have, seems to be a good one. Maybe it says in Ben Sira Sefer, that you shouldn't have too many people in your house. Don't have too many people in your house. Don't bring everybody into your house, because then you won't be able to pay attention. You push everybody outside. Don't bring everything into your house. Rabbi Nami Amro. But Rabbi said the same thing. Tanya, we learn a brisa. Rabbi Omer Liolim Lo Yarba Adam Reim Betoch Beis. So you shouldn't bring all your friends into your house. Shenamar Ish Reim Lehis Ro'ea. That person who has too many friends, so then he's going to wind up coming too bad for that, right? And the bottom line is that you should have friends, but how many friends you basically take into your inner circle and hold in confidence, that you should keep limited. Don't tell everybody everything about you, right?
Even your close friend, you shouldn't trust with something.
That's correct. Even your close friends. Have a few close friends, otherwise don't bring everybody in. Maybe because the pasuk says, Zeldikon, Kurtamon, Avdikon, Sachsan. So Zeldikon is a person who has a beard that is thin and it's weak, and the Kurtamon is a wise person who is very sharp, and an Avdikon is somebody who has a thick beard, and Sachsan is a Shota. Is somebody who's foolish. So if you've got a thin beard, right, so then you are a very smart person. If you've got a thick beard, so then you are somebody who is a foolish person.
Don't look at me.
Denafach bechasei, somebody who blows the froth off of their beer, lo tzachi, can't be that thirsty, right? Because if you're thirsty, you just drink it, right? And so Amar b'mai echul lachma. So also, he said that b'mai echul lachma, what kind of relish should you eat bread with? Lachma sav minei. So take the bread, right? So if the person lachma sav minei, person asks, hey, what are we having with the bread? What relish are we having? He's not that hungry. Take the bread away from him, right? He doesn't need the bread because he's obviously like that finicky, right? Man isle ma'abarta bediknei. So somebody who has a part in his beard, right? So then, kuliyama lo yachli, nobody can beat that guy because he's clearly doing this with his beard all day long, thinking and plotting and plotting and thinking. That guy, so
the highest level.
So the Gemara says that's just that makes no sense, right? All that stuff about the beard and all that doesn't make any sense. Therefore, that's why don't waste your time with Ben Sira, right? You'll get to that part and that
just knocks it out.
That knocks it out. Amar of Yosef, Rabbi says, Mili mal yaisa de isbe darshinalu. There are some things that are in Ben Sira Sefer that are very good. Right? Not all of it's bad. Because Isha Tova Matana Tova. It says there in Ben Sira Sefer that a good wife is a great present. Bechek Yirei Elokim Tinasein. That into the arms of a God-fearing person she should be given. Isha Ra, a wicked woman, Tsaras Libala, she is a pain for her husband. Mai Takante, how do you fix that? Yigarshena mi Beisov Yisrapi Mitzarto, then divorce her and chase her out of your house. Isha Yafa, Ashrei Bala, a beautiful woman is great for her husband. Mispar Yamav Kiflayim. So she is going to double his years. I saw an explanation for that is because if somebody has an attractive wife, he's less likely to commit adultery. And the punishment for adultery is kares, which means that you die at half your age. So if therefore you are...
Even do adultery with your own personal wife?
No. We're saying that if you have a wife that you like, you won't do adultery with somebody else's wife, right? Because you'll be happy with your wife.
She's already pretty.
Because she's pretty, so therefore it's going to prevent you from getting kares. You should hide your eyes from a married woman who is haschein, that she has
grace.
Grace, thank you. That's a good word. So that you will not get trapped in her traps. I'll tate eitzel. You get trapped by her, right? You'll get hooked up, right? You'll get all entranced with the woman who is too nice, right? Yeah, don't spend your time hanging around with nice ladies.
Oh, okay.
Who's married, right? To somebody else. So you point that out, right? Al tate eitzel ba'alo lim soch imo yain v'shechar, right? Don't spend all your time with her husband, right? To drink and have wine and those. Ki betoar isha yafa rabim hu shchasu, because in the countenance of beautiful ladies, many people have gone astray. Vatsumim kol harugeha, and there are many those that were killed by her. Rabim hayu pitzei rochel. There are many that the wounds of those who are peddlers are many, right? Why? Because peddlers who sell women's products like perfumes or purses or those kinds of things have to spend a lot of time with ladies, right? So they're knocking on their door and whatever, and husbands get jealous and beat them up. So they have to...
That's how you know the size of the lady's fingers or whatever?
Basically the husbands get a little bit suspicious and jealous, and therefore they get beaten up a lot. So it's just important to know that if you are going to go into a profession, right? Wear a helmet. If you are going to go into that profession.
And a face guard.
V'hamargilim lidvar erva, and those who are promiscuous and get involved in those things that are erva, kenitutz mavir gacheles, is somebody who is like they're stoking a coal. They're getting themselves into trouble, right? Getting themselves into excitement for no reason.
We're talking about the women, they're the davar erva.
Hamargilim, yes, that if they are margil themselves to a davar erva, right, so then they are stirring up the coal, right? And they're going to wind up doing many averos. As the pasuk says, kichluv male of, that the birds which are seen visibly from the outside, kain batehem mileim mirma. Also, these people who are following, these people who are following and getting involved in erva, their house is filled with deceit. Right, but you can't see their deceit from the outside, right? They keep that stuff hidden, but their illicit relationships and inappropriate behavior happens in the privacy. Okay, next, more things that are good from Ben Sira Sefer. Now that we said we shouldn't learn it, now let's bring all the good things.
But when we say Devar Erva, we're talking about how they act outside. Otherwise, it's not a. It
doesn't say bnei. It's people who are margilim lidvar erva.
In the ways of erva.
People who do things that are erva. It doesn't necessarily they do it in public. I think that probably most of the arayos, the people are doing it in private, right?
Right. Okay. No, I thought like erva means like nakedness, right?
Yeah. Well, erva means having improper relationships, which people generally.
That's what it's, I thought that. Okay, I thought.
Right. Not that they are promiscuous and dressing inappropriately externally, right? Not necessarily. That's how I'm understanding it. So that way, probably otherwise, you'd have to answer your question why it would be something that is secret if you're being promiscuous out in public, right? So this sounds like something that's quiet. Okay. Next, minor rabbi mitoch beisacha. The pasuk, the thing that Ben Sira's Sefer said is that you should don't have too many people in your house. Shouldn't bring too many people into your house. Ravim yudorshe shlomecha. Many people should be at peace with you, right? You should have lots of people that you're friends with. Gali sodcha le'achad me'elef, but you should only tell your secrets to 1 out of 1,000, right? You have to be friendly with everybody, but don't give away your inner self to everybody. Mishochechas cheikha, the one who sleeps close to you in your arms, that's from your wife, shemor pische picha. You have to be careful telling her all your secrets because she'll tell other people, right? You have to be careful with that. So, al tatzer tzaras machar. You shouldn't get worried about tomorrow's worries. Kilo teda ma yeh leid hayom, because you don't know what's going to happen today. Shema lemachar einenu. Maybe you'll be dead by tomorrow. V'nimtza mitztar al olam shino shelo. And you're worried about a world that has nothing to do with you, right? What are you worried about tomorrow? Don't worry about the election. It's going to be fine. Who knows? You're even going to be around. Okay. Kol yemei ani ra'im. All the days of a poor person are bad. Ben Sira says, af leilos. Even the nights are bad for him. Because you think he's asleep. What difference does it make? The answer is no, because it's bad. Why? Because b'shefel gogim gago. He lives at the bottom of the city, in the cheap section of town, and the roof of his house, everybody's roof drips onto the roofs that are below them. So he gets all the drips from all the different houses in the city. All the dripping goes on him, and then I guess the noise keeps him awake. The leaks in his house, he gets it the worst. Ubemarom harim karmo, and his vineyards, the cheapest fields in the city, are at the highest parts of the mountain, and what happens is mimtar. What happens is mimtar gogim legago. All the rainwater from the roof flow down to his roof, and me'afar karmo lekramim, and the dirt from his field flows downhill into everybody else's field. So he puts in all the nice fertilizer and gets it all good, and then the rain comes and washes it all downhill, and everybody else benefits from all the work that he puts in. So
these are all mashalim still for the Sefer.
from Ben Sira.
Zera Ben Sira.
Yeah.
Like basically, yeah.
We said don't read it,
but
here's a bunch of good stuff. There's a good stuff that's in it.
Yeah.
Right? We'll give you the Cliff's Notes, the good stuff.
It says not to read it, and we're already reading it here.
That's why I was pointing it out. They can't really mean that you lose your bet Olam Haba for reading Ben Sira Sefer.
Right.
If we spent a whole a half a page of Gemara reading Ben Sira. Okay. Simon Zera Rava Mesharshia Chanina Tuvia Yana Yafe Yochanan Merachem Yoshua Mekatzer. These are all these Rebbes that we're going to be talking about in a moment. Amar Rabbi Zera. Rabbi Zera is the first one. Rabbi Zera says, Amarav, Mai Dichsiv Kol Yemei Ani Roim. What does it mean when the pasuk says, the pasuk we just read, that all the days of the poor people are bad? Elu Bale Talmud. These are people who learn Gemara. But because it's hard. It's very hard all the time. V'tovlev Mishtet Tamid. And the next part of the pasuk, that the heart of the heart is good for those that are always in a party. So that is Elu Bali Mishnah. Those are people who learn Mishnah. They have it nice and easy. They're enjoying their Mishnah studies. It's not so complicated. People who learn Mishnah have it easy. People who learn Gemara break their head open. It's hard. Rava Amar, Rava says Ibcha. He says no, it's exactly the opposite. It's right. The people who have it harder, the Mishnah people. The people who have it easier, the Gemara people. Right? Because the V'hainu Da'amar of Misharshia Mishmei Rava. That's what Misharshia says the name of Rava. That says Ma'idek. What does it mean? The pasuk says Masia Avonim Ye'atzev Bahem. That somebody who I guess who carves stones, right? He's going to be saddened by them. Somebody who who grinds stones will not have anything to be able to warm himself up. Elu Bali Mishnah. Those are the people of Mishnah. Bukei Itzim Yisochim, the people who chop trees, so then they will have a fire that they can build afterwards. Elu Bali Talmud, that's people in the Talmud. Meaning, you can learn and work hard, but at the end of the day, if you learn Gemara, you'll at least understand something. Right? You'll understand what the rationale and the reasons are. You'll be able to explain things. At the end of the day with Mishnah, you're memorizing a lot of information. It might be simpler, but you won't understand it all.
Why do they call Talmidim Aniyim though? Why are they poor people?
Because it's hard. Afflicted, right? From the word ani, right? To be oni, like afflicted, right? It's hard.
The Gemara makes it easier to understand the Mishnah.
That's what the point is, right? Gemara makes it easy to understand things. Sure, it's harder to learn it, but at the end of the day, you get something out of it at the end. You go, oh, I understand what's going on now. Okay. Reb Chanina says, "Kol yemei ani roim." All the days of the poor are hard, are bad. Zemi sheyesh isha ra. That's a person who has a bad wife. V'tovlev mishta tamid, the one who has good, and he's in a party all the time. Zesh yesh isha tov. That's somebody who has a good wife. Rabbi Yana says, "Kol yemei ani roim." All the days of the poor are bad. Ze istinis. This is referring to somebody who is he's very worried about, it's like a germaphobe. He's an istinus is somebody who's very particular, right? Very particular about things.
Germaphobe is when people don't.
They're scared of scared of their germs, right?
He's
mefunak. He's finicky person. That's the word. Finicky.
A pauper are bad.
All the days of the pauper are bad. That is talking about a finicky person. He just has a tough time, right? These are, people you see, like let's say modern times, we take a look at somebody who has some OCD or something like that. They're very precise. It's very hard. It's very hard for them. But Tov Lev Mishta Tamid, somebody who's having a good time all the time, Zeshadato Yafa. This is somebody who just doesn't care. Everything's fine. He has an easygoing personality, so he doesn't get angry all the time, so it's much easier for him. And he's not scared of it. The way he's put it is, he's Rashi. He's not even scared of anything that's disgusting. He'll live in filth. He's happy. It doesn't make a difference. Good for him.
Always think of a spider.
He's always happy. Rabbi Yochanan says, "Kol yemei ani roim." He interprets the pasuk, all the days of the poor are bad. Zet rachmani. This is somebody who is merciful, right? He's worried about everybody, and so he's all the time. He reads a story about something bad that happens to somebody, it really affects him. So he's sad all the time, right? V'tov lev mishta tamid zet achzari. Somebody who doesn't care. Somebody who doesn't care about anybody, so he's happy all the time. He doesn't care. Old bad stories, things that happen, they don't affect him. Rabbi Shimon Levi explains, Kol yemei ani roim, all the days of the poor are bad. Zeh, top of Kuf Aleph Amud Aleph. Zeh shetato ktsara. This is somebody who is not so worried. He's not very empathetic. This is somebody who's very empathetic. He's always worried about his friend. V'tov lev mishta tamid zeshatato rechava. This is person who does not worry so much. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says, Kol yemei ani roim. What's the interpretation of the pasuk? All the days of the poor are bad. How could all the days of poor people be bad? There's Shabbos, there's Yom Tov, and we give them food on Shabbos and Yom Tov. How can that be bad? So the answer is Kiddush Shmuel, like Shmuel says. Shmuel says, Shinui vesas tchilas cholim me'ayim. If you change, then it hurts your stomach. Meaning, you don't have any food all week. That's bad, right? So they give you food. People invite you over for Shabbos, and then you go to somebody's house and they feed you nice food on Shabbos. What happens? You get a stomach ache.
Or doing the physical cleaning, stomach ache.
So it translates here, Shedata Kitsara is one who's short-tempered.
Okay, short-tempered. He gets angry at his friends all the time. Yeah, so if he's going to be angry at everybody, right? Taner Rabbanan, Hakori pasuk shel shir hashirim ve'oseh oso kimin zemer. You read a pasuk of shir hashirim and you make some kind of a song out of it. You don't take it seriously. Hakori pasuk base mishtaos below zmano. You're at a wedding or whatever. You're at a feast, and not a wedding, but you're at some kind of party, and you just start throwing psukim out because you're just having a good time. That is maybe roli olam. That's bringing bad to the world, right? You don't
especially when you're drunk.
But that's exactly the idea, right? You're involved in demeaning the words of the Torah, talking about Torah things in a demeaning way, not seriously, and just throwing things out. Because what happens is the Torah puts on sackcloth, and goes to Hashem and complains. And it says, Lefan of Ribbon Shalom, Master of the world, what am I, like a harp that people just like, it's a game? They just sing songs? Amar La, so Hashem says, Biti, my daughter, He says, look, people are into Torah, so they're eating, they're drinking, have a good time. What are they going to talk about? Of course they'll talk about you. So Amar Lefanov, so she says, the Torah says to Hashem, Ribbon Shalom, im Bali Mikrahain, Yasku B'Torah v'Nivim Ksuvim. If they are people who are learning psukim, let them learn psukim. In Bali Mishnah, if there are people who are Mishnah, Yaskov Mishnah, they should learn Mishnah. Behalachos agodos, and if they know halachos and agodos, so then in Bali Tamadein, so they should do halachos and agodos. In Bali Tamadein, if there are people who learn Gemara, Yaskov Bilchos Pesach, they should be learning about Pesach around Pesach time. Bilchos Atzeres Batzeres, they should learn Shavuos about Shavuos time, and Bilchos Chag B'Chag, and they should learn Sukkos at Sukkos times. Meaning that there's a right time to be learning different things. You don't make a game out of it. So they want to sit around and they want to learn Torah. Then they should by all means do it, but do it according to their ability and according to the time of the year that they're doing it. Not make a joke out of it. Hey, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya. So Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar said, Rabbi Shimon ben Chananya. Kol akari pasuk bizmano. Anybody who does read a pasuk at the appropriate time, so then maybe Tova Liom is bringing good onto the world. V'davar be'ito matov. The Pshanim pasuk says, V'davar be'ito matov. Something in its proper time. How good is that? So next thing that somebody loses their chiluk and haba is somebody who's lochesh al hamaka, somebody who whispers over a wound. So Rabbi Yochanan says, "Ubarokek ba." That is somebody who spits on the wound. That's how they would heal it. They would spit on it, and then afterwards they would then say the psukim. Why? What's the problem there? Because it looks disrespectful that you spit and then you say a pasuk, right? That looks like you're being disrespectful to the pasuk because you spit and then said it. It's not like you're so bad that you are davening because somebody needs to get better. It's like because you spit. And Rava and Itmar, and we said that Rav Amar afilu nega tzaras, right? Even if he wants to recite the pasuk about the affliction of tzaras, that is, even though it has no Shem Hashem in the pasuk, right? You may think it has no Shem Hashem, so it's not disrespectful. That's still bad. You can't say that if you've spit. Even the pasuk that says that Vayikra El Moshe, which has nothing to do with Negoim, has nothing to do with getting better or healing the sick or Hashem or Hashem's name. This is this week's parsha, right? It's very, very nice that it happens to be quoted right here, right? Vayikra El Moshe, the first pasuk of this week's parsha. And nevertheless, that is not supposed to. You can't disrespect any pasuk. You can't say that after spitting. Tana Rabbanan, Rabbi's room. Now, we have a problem that on Shabbos, we're not allowed to do any healing things, anything to heal. Why? Because they would, if you had some spices or something, some kind of herbs that would help you heal, you might grind them up on Shabbos, and that would be a violation. So, Midrabanan, they made a prohibition not to do anything to heal people on Shabbos.
Hatzal is a different story, though.
That's because somebody save people's lives because of toching. Correct. So now
the medicine.
This says, though, nevertheless, that you are allowed to pour some oil and give somebody a stomach massage on Shabbos, because that's not any violation of Shabbos things there at all, and we're not worried that you're going to grind anything up because oil isn't something you're going to grind up. It's not a worry that you have to worry about that.
But that can be smicha. You could be worried about somebody.
But it's not. But sachin, the sicha is not going to be a problem because the oil doesn't have a consistency that's going to be a problem, right? It's already liquidy, and so therefore it's not a problem. Lochshin also, v'lochshin lechishas nechashim v'akrobim b'Shabbos. Also, we can whisper these things that people say in order to keep snakes and scorpions away on Shabbos. That's not a problem either, to get those away. Umavirin kli al gav ha'ayin, and we can even put a metal utensil on somebody's eyes, right? Somebody would have like an eye ache, they would put something cold, like a cold compress on it, so they would take a piece of cold metal and put it on the person's eye to get rid of their eye aches, and do that on Shabbos. Reb Shimon Gamliel says, when is that? You could do that? Bekli hanitel, you can only do that if the kli is not muktzah, for other reasons, right? It has to be, it obviously can't pick up something that is muktzah on Shabbos. Like, for example, you can use a knife or a ring or something like that, or a pot, right? Aval, bekli she'eno nitel, but if you have something which is muktzah, then you can't move that and put that on the eye. Vein sholin bevar shedim b'Shabbos. You know what also is important is, don't talk to Shadim on Shabbos, right? Don't talk to the Shadim on Shabbos. And Rabbi Yossi Omer, af b'chol aser. Not even good to do that during the week either, by the way. But Amar Rav Huna says, and I think that we put the word in halach Rabbi Yossi, the halacha is not like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi lo Amar, even Rabbi Yossi didn't say that, el mishum sakana. He says, not really aser, it's just dangerous. Right? Start talking to the Shadim. Bad idea, because it's dangerous. Ki hod Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef, like Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef says, de'ivla be'arza, vis abid le nisa, Paka arza upalte, that he got swallowed up by a cedar tree one time because the demons attacked him, and then there was a nace that happened and the tree spit him out, right? But you don't want to get involved in demons because you could get swallowed up by a tree, right? Yikes. Is that like a scene in Wizard of Oz? There was like a scene,
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. I knew it was like someplace where it goes, right? That's where they got it from. They only said trees attacked them. So, Tana Rabban Rabbi, Sachin umimashmishin bibnei ma'ayim b'Shabbos, right? They anoint, and you can give somebody a massage on their stomach on Shabbos. Just, it's a good idea not to do it the way you do it during the week. Maybe it's an uvdid, the whole activity, a weekday activity. So you should do it in some shinui. You should do some kind of change to it, right? So, hechi of it, how do you do it with a little bit of a shinui? Rav Chami b'Rabbi Chanina, Rav Chami b'Rabbi Chanina says, Sach v'achar kach mashmesh. First pour the oil on and then do the massage, rather than just start the massage and then pour the oil in, or you put the oil in your hands and then massage. Pour some oil on first and then do the massage. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Sach umimashmesh b'bachas. Do it at the same time.
It's so funny because this question came up on Shabbos. Mm-hmm. My wife, and I said you can't use oil because I thought I was worried about smicha.
There you go.
But I was wrong.
See, according to this Gemara, right? You can't pass it from a Gemara.
No, I know.
But it's at least worthwhile to check it.
I was looking it up. I found other things, but I couldn't find anything on it, so it wasn't.
Very good. You're going to go home and say, there was a Gemara that talked all about you in the Gemara, and it says that a wonderful wife is going to make a husband happy.
Yeah,
so that's the Gemara is going to say. Talk about that Gemara instead. Okay. Tana Rabbanan. Don't forget the other Gemaras we learned, right? Tana Rabbanan. Sare shemen v'sare beitzim mutarn l'shol b'hen. You can talk to the demons that have to do with oil and the demons that have to do with eggs. Those demons are fine, right? I don't think that has to do with Shabbos. Maybe that's why eggs are so expensive. So I don't know, but and oil too, by the way, right? But anyways, the shadim ella mipnei she mechazvin. The only thing is that you have to be wary about asking them things because they lie a lot. Right? Everybody knows the egg demons and the oil demons are liars. So be careful with them. Lo cheshin, right? So al shemen bekli vein lo cheshin al shemen she beyad. Right? You're not allowed to say these whispers over oil that's in a utensil. Sorry, you can say it over the oil that's in a utensil, but not on oil that's in the hand. Lefichach sachem mishem shebiyad. Therefore, right? So therefore, we don't do it in the hand. Nobody would do the witchcraft or speak to demons on oil in a hand, only in a container. Therefore, that when we are going to use oil to anoint ourselves, use oil that's in the hand, but not oil that comes from a utensil. Because if you use oil from the utensil, it could be that somebody spoke to demons, and now that oil is contaminated. Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marasa, Iklahu ushpiza. This is what happened to Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marasa, who went to a hotel. They brought him some oil in a utensil. Nafkan leit simche be'apeh. He rubbed it on his face. Nafak, and what happened is, Nafak l'shuk. He went out into the marketplace, and Chazese hahi saw a certain woman saw his face, and Amr, she said, Zika de chamas ka chazina. I see the affliction of the chamas on your face. Hamas is either a demon or a witchcraft person or something like that.
Isn't Hamas thieves?
That is Hamas with a samech in Hamas, and right, this is Hamas.
Maybe the hotel is haunted.
So, well, this is he got all these boils and something on his face as a result of using contaminated oil. Avdale Milsa ve'itase. So she had the proper incantation and she healed him. So that is good. But you got to be careful, right? Using oil from utensils for this reason. Okay, that's good advice. Amarle Rabbi Abba or Rabbi Bar Mari. So Rabbi Abba said to Rabbi Bar Mari, Ksiv Pasuk says, Kol machlesh something Mitzrayim lo asim alecha ki ani Hashem rof echa. All of the illnesses that I put on Mitzrayim, I will not put upon you because I will heal you. Now that Hashem hasn't given any of these afflictions, refuah lamali. So why do you need Hashem to heal you? What do you mean? Is he going to heal you from what? The afflictions he's not giving you? You don't need healing from afflictions. Amar Leis, we explained to him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yochanan explained it like this. Mikra zeh me'atzmon didrash. You have to explain the pasuk like this, right? Shenamar pasuk says, Vayomer im shemot tishma l'kol Hashem l'kecha. If you listen to what Hashem says, im tishma, if you listen to what Hashem says, lo asim, you won't get any of the illnesses. V'im lo tishma, but if you don't listen, so asim, then you get the illnesses. V'afal pikein, nevertheless, ki ani Hashem roch fecha, but Hashem is going to heal you anyway, even if you do get those illnesses. Now, it's good to note that we have a whole section of the Haggadah which deals with how many makos we got on Yam Suf and how many makos we got, whether it was 50 or whether it was 50 or 200 exactly. What's the point? Because of this pasuk, it's later. It's by the after Dayenu, right? So we have all the. What's the point of that whole section? The answer is because pasuk says all of the machlos asher something Mitzrayim I'm not going to give to you. So if we could figure out how many machlos Mitzrayim got, those are all things that won't happen to us.
Are you talking about
the more later, right? Even more than that, right? Okay. Amar Rabbi Barchana keshechola Rabbi Eliezer, when Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkonis got sick, nichnasu talmidav levakro. His students came to visit him. Amar lehen chema aza yesh bolam. He says that there's terrible anger in the world, right? Because that's why you got sick. Hischilu hein. Bochen. So all the Talmidim of Rabbi Eliezer start crying. Rabbi Akiva, misachik. Rabbi Akiva, true to character, he starts to laugh. Right? He's always not going along with the crowd. So, Amrulo, so they say to him, Lamata misachik, why are you laughing? Amr lehen, v'chib ne'am bochen. He says, why are you guys crying? Amrulo, they said to him, Afshar, Sefer Torah shori b'tzar v'lo nivka. We see a Sefer Torah like Rabbi Eliezer. He's suffering and we're not going to cry. Amr lehen, he said to him, L'kachani misachik. That's why I'm so happy. Shekol's man sheni ro'eh Rabbi. Every time I saw Rabbi, she'ein yeno machmitz, that miracles would happen. His wine would never go bad. V'ein pishano loka, and his linen, his flax would never go bad. So ve'ein shmano mavish, and his oil wouldn't go bad. Ve'ein duvshano midmadbish, and his honey wouldn't go bad. Everything was miraculous. He'd be okay. Amarti shem chas v'shalom kibel Rabbi olamo. I thought, oh no, chas v'shalom, my Rabbi is getting all of his olam haba in this world because he's not a good person, maybe. So achshav shani roa Rabbi b'tzar. Now that I see he's getting in pain, ani samech, I'm happy because I know that he's getting his punishments now, so that he will go into olam haba full and ready to go. So
why do you laugh at someone and be happy for someone who's getting punished?
The point is that we're happy that ultimately these punishments indicate that all along he was doing well, right? These punishments indicate that Hashem has a few things to punish him for, and then he's going to go into olam haba free to go. Which his Rebbe says, Amar Lo, so Rabbi Eliezer says, Rabbi Akiva, Klum chisarti min Torah kula. He says, what do you think I did wrong? What are you basically accusing me of having some averos that I'm getting punished for? So Amar Lo, so Rabbi Akiva answered him, Limanaton Rabbeinu, Rebbe, you told us, Ki adamein tzadik ba'aretz asher yaset tov v'lo yechata. There's no such thing as a perfect person, right? I'm not assuming that chas v'shalom, Rebbe, that you did anything, but you told us there's nobody that's perfect, so there must be something. Then it's worth that you get a little bit of a punishment in this world so that you can come out the other side even better. Tana Rabbanan, rabbis, when Rabbi Eliezer got sick, Nichsu Arbar Zakenim Levakro, 4 elders went to go visit him. Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Azariah, Rabbi Akiva. Then Rabbi Tarfon V'Yamar. Rabbi Tarfon said as follows: Tova Tali Yisrael mi tipa shel gesham. You're better than rain. Shetipa shel gesham b'olam hazeh. Some rain is good in this world. V'Rebbi b'olam hazeh u'b'olam haba. You are good for this world and the world to come. Then Rabbi Yeshua V'Yamar. Rabbi Yeshua said as follows: Tova Tali Yisrael Yoser migalgal chama. This is you're better than the sun. Shegago chama b'olam hazeh. The sun is good in this world. V'Rebbi b'olam hazeh b'olam haba. And Rebbe, you're good in this world and the next world.
Isn't a galgal a wheel?
A galgal is a round object.
A wheel, yeah.
Right.
So how's that? Sorry.
The megalgal chama.
Yoser
Migalgal Chama, right?
You're
the round sun.
You're greater than
the ball of the sun. Nana Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah then said, "V'amar Tova Tal Yisrael Yoser Me Av Aim. You're more better than a mother and a father. Shava Aim Bal Mazah, mother and father is in this world. V'Rebbi Bal Mazah Bal Mazah, you're in this world and the next world." Nana Rabbi Akiva, Amar Rabbi Akiva comes along. He says, "Chaviv and Yisur," and he says, "These punishments are great." Right? So he's always going to come up with it, right? So Amar Le'ab, so Rabbi Eliezer says, Samchuni v'shmalach, lift me up. I want to hear this one. I want to explain. I want to hear what Rabbi Akiva's got to say about this. Divrei Rabbi Akiva Talmidai Sha'amar Chavinu. I want to hear what Rabbi Akiva's got to say. I'm in pain, so I want to know, why is the pain so good? So Amar Lo Akiva, Rabbi Akiva says, Zumi nayin lecha. How do you know this? So Amar, he says, Mikra anidorish. I know it from a pasuk. Pasuk says, Ben shteimesrei shana Menashe b'malcho v'chamesh shana malach b'Yishalayim. Menashe, who was the son of Chizkiyahu. We talked all about how great Chizkiyahu was. Right. His son Menashe wasn't so good. Right. Menashe took over when he was 12. He ruled for 50 years. Chamisha v'chamesh shana, 55 years. He was king. Vayas hara b'nei Hashem. He did evil things. Uksiv, the pasuk says, Gam Eila Mishle, we're on Kuf Aleph on the base. Gam Eila Mishle Shlomo Asher had Tiku Anshe Chizkiah Melch Yehuda. That Chizkiyahu and his students, they went through Mishle, Shlomo's Mishle, and they understood it and they studied all day long. So that means that Chizkiyahu was a big, huge Talmid Chacham. What do you think? That he taught everybody else Torah, but he didn't teach his own son Torah? He obviously was spending lots of time. Here he was, a great generation. Everybody was learning Torah. He obviously gave a great chinuch to his son, and his son was off the derech by 12 years old. Ella mikol torach shetarach bo mikol amal shama bo lo heli l'mutav. Even though he did everything, he tried everything to be able to keep his son, to be able to teach his son, it didn't help. Right? Didn't help. Sometimes it's the way it is. El Yisurin, but you know what did bring him back in tshuva? Punishments. When he got punishments at the end of his life, then Menashe became Baal Tshuva. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, "Vayidaber Hashem Menashe ve'Amo velo hikshivu." Hashem spoke to Menashe and the people, and they didn't listen. Vayavei Hashem aleim esarei tzava asher l'melech Ashur, and therefore the generals of the king of Ashur came. Vayilkadu as Menashe b'chochim, and they captured Menashe with hooks. Vayasru benechush tayim, and they had copper like handcuffs and things that they captured him with. Vayolichu Bavel, and they took him back to Bavel. Uksiv, and then the pasuk says, Ubehayetzer lo chila es pnei Hashem elokav vayikaneh me'od milifnei elokei avosav, and he was he started to realize he became humbled before Hashem. And before Hashem, the God of his fathers, Vayispalel Elov, and he davened to him, Vayaser Lo, and he prayed, Vayishma Tchinaso, Vayishivei Yerushalayim U'Malchuso, and Hashem heard his tefillos and heard his tshuva, and they brought him back to Yerushalayim to be king again. Vayeda Menashe Ki Hashem Hu Elohim, and Hashem knew that Hashem was the king. As we said, did that give him back his Chiluk and Mahaba? No, but it gave him back his Malchus, as we discussed that before. So Holy So what? Right, that was one of the three
kings and the four.
The four regular, exactly. So he was one of the ones who lost his own Mahaba. So now, the thing is, though, the Torah didn't help him. Right. The Torah didn't help him, but the Yisurim did. So that's what Rabbi Akiva says. That's how great Yisurim are. You want to know what causes people to do tshuva? The Yisurim do.
But why, if he did tshuva, did he not?
Yisurim is punishments, afflictions. Afflictions there.
Why wouldn't he get it? Why wouldn't he get his own back? It's
a good question.
He did tshuva.
Yeah, I guess he did. He went too far. That's what it sounds like. He went too far.
That's interesting.
Right. It's a good question. Tana Rabbana, Rabbi says, Shlosha ba'u ba'alila ve'eluhein, Kayin, Esav, Menashe. There are three people who came with claims against Hashem that were tricky, a little bit clever. And that is Kayin, Esav, and Menashe. Kayin, when it comes to Kayin, it says, he killed Hevel. And he says to Hashem, Gadol avoni minaso, my sin is greater than I can bear. Amar lefan of Ribbon Shalom. He said to Hashem, this is what he said. Klum Gadol avoni meshishim ribo shasidim lachto lefanecha. How can you punish me and not accept my tshuva when the Jewish people, 600,000 Jewish people, are going to worship Avodah Zarah and you're going to accept their tshuva? So if they're going to worship the golden calf and you're going to accept their tshuva, how can you not accept my tshuva? So therefore, Vatasach, you forgave them. So therefore, Hashem forgave Kayin. Right? That was his claim that he got his tshuva was accepted because of that. Esav, what happened to Esav? The pasuk says that he got cheated out of his brachos and Yitzchak says, there's nothing I can do about it. And he says, "Habracha achas hi lecha avi." What, do you only got one bracha? If Hashem is eternal goodness, then there's plenty of brachas to go around. So give me one too. And he got a bracha as well.
But didn't he give his brother permission to take the bracha from him?
Yes, but he didn't want it to happen in the end, right? He still wanted it. Esau was not an honest person.
At least he had kibbud of aim.
That's correct, he did. Menashe, what about Menashe's? Betchila kara lohos harbe. At first, Menashe was a massive idolater, and he worshipped many idols. Levasov kara leilokei avosov. At the end, he only called to the God of his forefathers. So therefore, he also was able to get some forgiveness as well.
That's weird. He was a big idol worshiper.
55 years.
And yet, when we bless our sons...
No, different Menashe. Good point. Different Menashe. This is not Menashe, the son of Yosef. This is King Menashe, the son of Chizkiyahu, who was a really bad king.
Okay,
good. Thank you. So you have to make sure to clarify. Different Menashe. Yes. No, this is bad Menashe. Okay. There's good Menashe and there's bad Menashe. Right? Okay. This is bad Menashe. Rabbi Shalom says, somebody pronounces the name of Hashem with all of its letters, loses their share in the Olam Haba, in the world to come. So Tana, we say, Ubagvulin, we're talking about saying the name of Hashem outside of the Beis HaMikdash area, Ubeloshan Aga, or if you say it in a language other than the Hebrew, in a non-Hebrew language. Now we talk about the 3 kings and the 4, right? The ones that don't have. The 3 kings were Yeravam, Achav, and Menashe.
Wait, that's very interesting.
Yes.
You say it not in Hebrew.
Correct. I don't know how you say the 72-letter name not in Hebrew, because I don't know what the translation of the
right. So Hebrew translation of the name. So when people say the blank witnesses,
yes,
is that considered saying the name?
I don't think so, because I don't think that's the name we're talking about. We're talking about the name that was pronounced in the Beis HaMikdash, which was the special name.
Which name was that?
I don't know, because I haven't been there.
The pronunciation of all the 22 letters.
Shlosha, now the 3 kings that we were worried about are Yeravam, Achav, and Menashe. Those are the 3 bad kings. Now let's start with the first one. Yeravam, Tana Rabbanan. Let's talk about how bad Yeravam was. Yeravam, there was David who was king, then Shlomo was king, then there was Rechavam, his son, and Yeravam was the king who broke off, and they had a rebellion, and they split the kingdom into 2 parts. Yeravam is the first king of the Malchus Yisrael, the Yisrael kingdom, and he was really bad, as we can explain. So Yeravam, Sheriba, his name comes from the word Sheriba that he put everybody on the downhill, right? Everything was downhill from there. Davarach, another explanation, Yeravam Sha'asa Meriva Ba'am, he created fights, right? Or basically he pushed everybody, he caused everybody to worship Avodah Zarah and to fight with one another. Davarach, another explanation of his name, Yeravam Sha'asa Meriva Bein Yisrael Lavim Shebashmaim, he made a fight between the Jewish people and Hashem. Ben Nevat, his father's name was Nevat. What is Nevat? Ben Shenibet he's the son of the person who saw things, but he didn't understand them. He didn't perceive them. He was, as we're going to explain what happened with that. Tana. So we're going to explain who this person, Yeravam ben Nevat, who's this person Nevat. Who Nevat, who Micha. This guy named Nevat is also the guy named Micha. Micha is an interesting character because he is very old. Micha appears in Shoftim, and he creates an idol for Avodah Zarah, and interesting that Moshe Rabbeinu's grandson was a priest for his Avodah Zarah. But Micha was very old, from the generation that was already from the desert, right? He lived that long, and so he started up this Avodah Zarah. Vehu Sheva ben Bichri, he's also the same guy as Sheva ben Bichri. If you go into Sheva ben Bichri in Avshalom's rebellion from David, when Avshalom rebels against David, people wanted to start going back to David. Sheva ben Bichri took up the rebellion all over again, and he started to push everybody away from David. And so he's a really bad person. You see, he keeps coming up really bad, and he's the Nevat, who is Rechavim's father. He's Nevat Shenibet v'lo ra. He saw, but he never understood any of the thing. So that was what the word nibet means. What is it? So what's the explanation? Micha, why is he called Micha? Shenismach mech bebinyan. When the Moshe Rabbeinu was in Mitzrayim, and they started to take away the straw from the workers. So when the Jewish people didn't make their quotas, they would take the babies and build them into the pyramids, and or the pyramids, the walls of the whatever they were building. Moshe Rabbeinu complained about that, and Moshe was told he can save one of them. One of the people he saved was Micha. So that is where Micha comes from. And then Micha turned out to be no good for his whole life. And he lives this very long life of what comes out to be about 800 years, and he's terrible the whole time. So, Mashmo, what was his real name? Sheva ben Bichri. His real name was Sheva ben Bichri. We call him Micha because he was one of the ones that Moshe Rabbeinu pulled out of the wall.
Shouldn't he have been from the door?
Remember, there's a medrash that says.
Sorry?
Shouldn't he have been in the door that died in the desert?
Yes. Isn't that interesting? The door that died. Well, maybe, why not? Maybe I wonder if he got. Well, the answer is he should have been, because I would say if he was under 20 when that Avera happened, then maybe he would have been avoiding it. But if it was from when Moshe Rabbeinu pulled him out of, then it would have been at the beginning of Moshe Rabbeinu's first time that he spoke to Paro, which would only be 2 years. Yeah, he could have been a baby. We could have been only 2 or 3 years old at the time of that he was in the midbar, and that's how he escaped being killed in the door midbar. Right?
So he was right. He was young enough. He was under.
He would be under 20 that he wouldn't have been killed by that. Tanar Abanan. Our rabbis learn Shlosha Nibtu V'lo Ra'u. There are 3 people who observe things, but they didn't really understand them. Ve'eluhein, hear them. Nevat Achitofel and Nastignine Paro. Since these are good Seder Divrei Torah, we can include them. Nevat Achitofel and the sorcerers of Paro. And let's go through these before. I know we're a little bit over, but we'll just be able to continue and just a little bit drop longer. Navat Ra Ish Shiyotzis Mamaso. Navat, he had a dream, and he saw fire come out of his private parts. And this was what his dream was. Ouch. Yeah, I would think so, but it sounded to him like Husavar. He interpreted this dream to mean De'ihu Molech. That means that he's got power, right? And he's going to be the king. That was how he interpreted his dream. Okay, so he thought he was Velohi, but he was wrong. It was Yeravam who did nafak mineh. It means that fire was going to come out from him, meaning his children were going to be king, and Yeravam was going to be king. That's what it means. He saw something. He had a vision, a prophecy, but he didn't understand what it meant, so he misinterpreted it. Chaf Achitophel. That's why he rebelled against David, because he thought, I'm becoming king, and he didn't. In the end, it was his son. Achitophel. What about Achitophel? Achitophel was the person who was the advisor of David, and he also sided with Avshalom's rebellion. Achitophel had a similar vision. He saw that he had leprosy in a dream he had tsaras on his private parts. So Husavar, he thought that meant Ihu Malach, that just like that tsaras indicates that a person needs to be standing apart. So he says that indicates leadership, somebody who stands apart. So therefore, I'm also going to be leader. But Velohi, he was wrong. Batsheva Bito, he did nafak mineh Shlomo. He says no, because what he didn't understand was it was his lineage, meaning his daughter was Batsheva, his granddaughter was Batsheva. No, his daughter was Batsheva, right? His granddaughter was Batsheva. We said before, right? It was because she, right? So his granddaughter was Batsheva, and she had her son was Shlomo. So therefore, his descendants became king, not him. But that's why he rebelled against David also, because he didn't understand what the vision was that he was seeing. And on Stignine Paro, the sorcerers that Paro had in Mitzrayim, also didn't understand their vision. Damar Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chama bar Rabbi Chanina says, "My dichsev." How do you explain the pasuk? Hema mei meriva. That these are the waters that Moshe Rabbeinu, he hit the rock and he rebelled, and therefore he got punished, and he wasn't able to go into Mitzrayim. Sharo at stagnine paro v'to, but Hema Sharo had stagnine paro v'to. The sorcerers of Paro had a vision, and they saw these waters that were going to destroy Moshe. They saw waters that are going to destroy Moshe. So Ro'u Shemoshian Shel Yisrael b'mayim huloka. They saw the person who's going to save the Jewish people. He's going to be destroyed by water. So Amru. So they said, Kol habnei yilud hayirod tashlichu. You got to throw all of the sons that are born into the Nile River to destroy them in water. But vehein lo yadu. They did not know. Shall iske memeriva loka. It was the further situation of the water in the deserts that was going to be that which destroyed Moshe, not the water in Mitzrayim, and so they did not understand their own vision. That's a good question.